What's up, wrestling fans? Two Bros Wrestling Show coming at you through the magic that is professional wrestling. Yes, that's what I say. That's
See,
it.
2 weeks back, and you're already in the swing of things, Doug.
Already in the swing of things. What's
And
happening,
we've
Kevin?
been on the swing that everyone has been on, and that is Mania, and we are going to get back on that road. We all know what season it is. WWE is dominating our wrestling discussion as it should this time every year.
Indeed.
But Doug, I don't know if you knew this or not, but studies show there is actually another wrestling company.
What? That's
I
crazy
know.
talk, Kevin. It must be some kind of revolution or something.
And you thought we would have planned that bad
Oh,
bit
man.
of no. Hey, we do need to talk AEW though, because we do have another company that has a major PLE. No, I guess theirs are still pay-per-views.
There's still pay-per-views, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about it. That is our main event tonight, to discuss AEW Revolution. And then we'll do another AEW show. And then, of course, we will get right back into all of the Mania
Right back
talk.
into it.
That's not to say we don't have some WWE to talk about, because we have
Ooh.
an opening bell. We're going to start tonight's news with some major shakeups behind the scenes of WWE. PW Insider broke the news this week that Brian James, aka Road Dogg, suddenly resigned his position on the SmackDown creative team and has left WWE altogether. The departure is both sudden and surprising, with no comment yet that I have seen from anyone involved as to why. On the Raw side of things, Alexandra Williams has been promoted to lead writer on the Raw brand. She has been a writer-producer with WWE for 6 years. So basically, both the main shows now are going to have new writer-producers. Interesting, especially with Road Dogg, man, and his relationship with Triple H and all that. It's
Right.
shocking.
Although, I've seen some other folks talking about this and talking about, what is that, WWE Unreal or Real or
Unreal.
whatever it is. Yeah. How almost every time poor Road Dogg pitches something that sounds like a really good idea, everybody just shoots him down on the show.
I
So
would say
maybe,
definitely check out, if you haven't, the truth that deals with the episode that deals with R-Truth's departure, even if it was brief. You will see exactly what folks are talking about. With Road Dogg was taking it hard and was fighting hard for R-Truth when others were just making business decisions. So yeah, maybe some ways that was some foreshadowing that this maybe shouldn't be quite so surprising.
apparently was doing something similar with Chelsea Green, but quickly just I guess decided that wasn't a hill to die on and just gave up on that fight too. So I don't know. Maybe it's been brewing for a while.
I'm sure at some point he will tell his side of the story, and maybe
Oh,
we'll
I'm
know
sure.
more.
Yeah, as soon as he starts his own podcast and does a tell-all with
That's how it works. That's how these
Yep.
things work.
Maybe we can get an exclusive with Road Dogg.
Let's get on that.
Let's.
Next
I'm
week's
on
show.
it. Yeah, I'm totally on that.
We are sending our best wishes to Lucha legend, WCW legend Conan, the 62-year-old Conan, who most recently had been a commentator and behind-the-scenes guy for the WWE/AAA partnership. He has faced some health challenges, and this is most recently put him hospitalized with supposedly some pretty fragile health this week in San Diego. He reportedly has undergone a leg amputation and may have to actually lose his other leg as well. Yeah, I know.
Whoa.
I'm hoping that it turns out not true, but a lot of reports making it look like it very much is the case, sadly.
And at some point in the recent past, didn't Bagwell also just lose at least part of a leg, like a below the knee amputation? Right. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough news for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It is officially the end of an era. The WWE Network, which ceased being a thing for most of us years ago, will see its final and official end April 1st when it shuts down in Germany, Austria, and Italy. These were the three last remaining countries of, essentially the holdouts were because those international contracts now belong to Netflix, but there were existing contracts in place that prevented Netflix from assuming the WWE rights earlier, even though the rest of the world went to Netflix January 1st of last year. Now everything internationally will be there on Netflix, but it is a bit of a sad day to know that it is officially gone because, everything in one place for $9.99. I mean, those were the days, man.
Those were the days. No more Surfshark VPN, not sponsored, but you could be sponsoring us to catch the network wherever we could. So,
yeah, RIP WWE Network.
Yep.
Let's shift to some wrestler coming and goings. We have two stars who are out of TNA after quitting this week. Mance Warner and his wife, Steph DeLauder, are gone. DeLauder was gone, and then Mance left out of solidarity for his wife, as one would expect. But DeLauder has now gone on the record with the couple's side of the story because the initial reporting was that they just quit because TNA wouldn't let her wrestle. She's been sidelined for more than a year after neck surgery. She even went outside of TNA to consult with WWE's spinal surgeon, who cleared her to wrestle, and TNA supposedly still would not let her wrestle. She also claimed that both of her neck surgeries she paid for herself. TNA didn't cover any of her medical bills. And there are some reports that claim the company was hoping to retain Mance, but the Southern Psycho supported his wife, left with her, and both are accepting indie bookings. So we'll see if they show up anywhere else.
Okay, I don't know who any of those people are, but the Southern Psycho sounds like an awesome wrestling moniker.
I actually liked Mance a lot in MLW, and the TNA character was not that guy. I don't know what they did to him, so maybe he can get closer back to being himself, which is the way it felt in MLW. Tony has unlimited, roster room in AEW. I mean, there's never an end to the hirings in AEW, so maybe Mance can end up there.
Maybe so.
Speaking of, that's a great segue because David Finlay has now signed with AEW. The former New Japan Pro Wrestling star reportedly had been talking to WWE and TNA as well. All three promotions offered him a deal, but ultimately decided to go All Elite because, money. Reportedly, the AEW offer was much more than the other two, and Dave Meltzer is reporting that WWE lowballed him, did not make a great offer at all for him to join NXT. A WWE move would have brought him into the same company as his father, Fit Finlay, as well as his brother, Uriah Connors. But Finlay instead is now partnered up with his former New Japan cohorts, Clark Connors and Gabe Kidd.
Well, I guess that's good for him, but I really did expect him to go to WWE. Interesting.
Yeah, because there's that whole birthright faction in NXT now that he would seem like that apparently was the plan had it worked out for him to take the offer, but you can't blame a man at this stage Finlay's not a youngster anymore. Take the money for your family. I don't blame him. Take the best
absolutely.
Deal.
Absolutely.
Tony has it to burn.
And, if nothing else, it's a career move because a lot of folks seem to just go out and make a name for themselves with the competition and then become really hot commodities too eventually. So you've got New Japan, now AEW under his belt before they throw a lot of money at him to come there eventually.
That's true. Doesn't mean no now, doesn't mean no forever.
So true.
MLW has announced the relaunch of its weekly TV series Fusion. No word yet on when or where that show is going to happen, but tapings have already begun here in March. The show has been on hiatus since the end of 2023, with MLW instead opting the last few years to present regular specials instead of a weekly TV series. We'll keep you updated on to when that show is back on air. WWE finally announced the details for this year's WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. The event is going to take place Friday, April 17th during Mania weekend at Dolby Live at Park MGM. This is right next to the T-Mobile Arena, which should help attendees moving from SmackDown to the Hall of Fame ceremony. Right. The ceremony will begin about an hour after SmackDown ends, which is a local Vegas start time of 9 p.m., making it midnight here on the East Coast. This is still an hour earlier than when they started things last year, and apparently that was a big mess of people trying to get to the venue where it was last year, which was way farther away. So hopefully within a couple of minutes, it's a easier transition, and hopefully it won't go as long as last year either for those on the East Coast who want to go to bed. I think last year, if you watched live, the Hall of Fame was going off at like 4 a.m. Eastern time or something like that.
Sure. It's like a AEW pay-per-view.
It's very true. I said all the details. I should note that one detail that is still not announced yet is where the event will be broadcast for those wanting to watch the Hall of Fame on television. I'm sure it will be. Obviously, last year that was with Peacock. I'm assuming ESPN, maybe Netflix. Who knows? Maybe WWE doesn't even know.
Probably don't.
They seem to be winging a lot of things this time of year.
Yes.
So a little concerning. And speaking of the Hall of Fame, this will bring us to our last story and our opening bell. It's a good transition. We'd like to congratulate Axe and Smash. The team known as Demolition have been announced as the latest inductees, joining Stephanie McMahon and AJ Styles into this year's Undertaker Hall of Fame. I mean, you did point it out that that's his job now. He's Mr. Hall of Fame.
It's part of his Legends contract. He goes to pick out, who gets in the Hall of Fame and scares them when he shows up. So when Undertaker shows up now, people expect it, I think.
And I will be disappointed if the Undertaker is not the host of this year's Hall of Fame. He needs to be like the MC. We will obviously be going deeper into the career of Axe and Smash when we do our annual Hall of Fame edition, but Demolition are a 3-time WWF Tag Team Champion, and one of those reigns lasted a very astonishing 478 days, which for 23 years was the record for Tag Team Champs in WWF until actually 28 years it stood until the New Day broke that about a decade ago. And with that bit of news,
all right,
let's get to the non-WrestleMania talk, and that is Tony Khan's company having a pay-per-view next Sunday night, which means we won't be on the air competing against them, but we'll tell you when we're back here in the end of our show. For now, we have a week to go until that pay-per-view, which means Tony can add several more hours to what is already a pretty stacked card. We have 10 matches already.
I was going to say,
I'm a week's worth of TV.
I'm looking at a list and there's 10 on here, and I'm like, well, that can't be all. That can't be right for an AEW pay-per-view.
So let's start there, because we joke all the time about Tony overdoing it. WrestleMania is 2 nights, and it's probably going to be 4 solid hours each night, maybe 5 now that they've added the bonus. The rumor is they're looking at 14 matches total for the weekend, something
over 2
14
nights.
Over 2 nights. Half of those being women's matches, which would be a record, which I would love to see if that actually occurs. But still, Tony will end up with more than 14 matches. You know, there's more than 4 more matches coming to what we're about to talk about. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So,
because I'm thinking some of these matches kind of fall apart here too and spin off into other things. So, yeah.
Well, let's talk about the ones we do know, knowing that Tony is going to add more to our plates. We won't talk about what is obviously a pre-show match where we don't know the opponent yet, and that's what the Big Boom, AJ. Who I mean, is he like their Logan Paul, like the celebrity that's actually going to wrestle all the time now for them or something?
I guess have we ever got that Big Boom is all elite? Have we got that, or is Big Boom is all elite for PPVs? Maybe I don't know.
For PPV pre-shows, because that's his role in life. And I don't think he ever loses that I can remember him losing one of these really lackluster contests. So whoever he's facing, Doug, I am predicting Big Boom for the win.
Yes, unfortunately, TBA will be.
What is that?
Yes, yeah. TBA will be staring at the ring at the lights. So
let's do one more TBA, and that is a I don't even know, just like the Big Boom prediction, the Ricochet championship match. He is defending his AEW National Championship in a 21-man blackjack battle royal match. Tony. This pretty much just means, Doug, anyone who doesn't get booked in the 8 matches he's going to add to this, they will be in this match against Ricochet.
Yes. I mean, well, they got to get paid, I guess. At least it's a way for Tony to get all of his talent across his 2 wrestling companies, on air. So
yeah.
I got to say it's unique that, I mean, but it almost feels like some Vince Russo kind of booking to have a blackjack battle royal championship match. We're not where the winner gets something in the future or a trophy, but if Ricochet doesn't win, he loses his. I don't know. It's yeah.
Which, we're going to have to predict amongst 22 competitors, only one of which we know, and that's the champion. But because we know the champion and because logic tells you that one of the other 21 men should win against Ricochet, I'm going to say Ricochet somehow manages to retain, because that's wrestling math. Yes. When the odds are this stacked against you, you will always win.
Yes. I mean, we don't even need Scott Steiner for this. That is straight up wrestling math.
Ricochet knows that the ball is in his court. If it was one-on-one against somebody, we might have an issue here. But Ricochet should sleep well at night, knowing he only has to survive 21 men, which means he obviously will.
Yes, he will. And he will do it gloriously by zinking and zapping and flipping and flopping around the ring and probably not even being in the ring that much. He'll go underneath the bottom rope and stay out for a while and let people do their thing, and then he'll come back in and bada bing, bada boom. He'll come through with the victory because, wrestling.
That's probably maybe a pre-show match as well. I guess it might depend on what else they add. I think now we're going to get to the main card, probably, in my estimation. And I'm going to start, Doug, if you're all right with it. Let's do the 3 non-title matches, and let's save all the title contests for the end. But these non-title matches, we can make fun of Tony for some of his hot shot booking or for how many matches he puts on, but any of these 3 matches, would be must-see matches, even if they, had titles at stake. So it is a stacked card when you look at it, because I'm starting with Andrade El Idolo versus Bandito, which is going to be a barn burner.
Absolutely.
A singles match here between, sort of mutual respect, compadres. But Andrade has been, I know Bandito is a former world champion and all this stuff, but Andrade has been treated like a very big deal in his return to AEW, which I like. And I think because of that Andrade has the edge of keeping that momentum going.
And, he is with the Don Callis family. So, Don at ringside, I'm sure, will add a little bit of shenanigans to it. So,
and a lot of great lines on commentary, no doubt.
Always. Okay. So I've got 2 screens going, and one of my screens just went to sleep, and that's the screen with all my notes on it.
Uh-oh. Doug's flying blind.
I am flying blind. I can't see my password. Stand by, please. I gotta move the screen.
Oh, what?
Okay, there we go. Live interwebs for you folks right there. Okay.
That's hilarious. Doug, you don't need your notes to know that Andrade is probably winning that match, though. That one, right?
Yeah.
We're in agreement on that one. This next one, I don't know, because this next one is Brody King versus Swerve Strickland, which a couple months ago I would have said that it was obvious who was winning this one, but I will give AEW credit. They have elevated Brody King from being a side character or a heavy in a faction to being a big deal main event seeming guy who is as over with the crowd right now as anyone in AEW. I still think this tilts Swerve Strickland's way because it seems like he is still world title material. Not that Brody isn't. I just think that Swerve is on a collision course showdown with either his historic enemy Hangman Page,
right,
or back with MJF. We'll get to that one obviously at the end, but man, I hate to root against Brody here because I do think it's possible.
No,
But
but yes, I totally agree with everything you're saying because this one is hard because Brody has been elevated, but I think at the end of the day, this goes to Swerve, man. It because Swerve is on a collision path with that championship and whoever's holding it. And
I was worried that he would lose his momentum all the time he was off with injury, but as soon as he's come back, that aura is still there about Swerve. That man just has something that you want to watch. So I think we're in agreement on this one. Again, this is a singles match, no title at stake, no gimmicks in this one, which I like, just a straightforward match. But that's a main event on most cards, and that's probably something that's going to happen early on in Revolution.
Yep.
Which brings us to the last match we're going to talk about that isn't for a championship, and that is Timeless Tony Storm against Marina Shafir. It's a similar situation in that, Marina Shafir, who maybe was mid-card, has been elevated quite a bit over the last, obviously her association with the Death Riders, but they've been giving her more significant wins, more things to do. But I think this one, even more so than Brody King, Swerve Strickland, is a little easy for me to predict that part of what they've been doing is making Marina strong for this particular moment. And that unless they go on some sort of Tony can't win the big one anymore storyline, I don't see Tony succumbing to a mother's milk here.
Agreed. I hate to be in lockstep, and I don't think we've been like this in a while. Of course, I haven't been around in a while.
I mean, it would be a shock, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, because
although I do see a hilarious pun in some sort of pre-show interview with Tony Storm talking about mother's milk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There will be some entendres thrown about before this contest.
Yes, there will.
Which brings us to the championship portion
of
the Revolution pay-per-view, and it is thick. There is there's a ton of championships in AEW, which can be a problem, but I think they're all being defended on this particular night. And let's start with the Trios Championship, just because it's historically my least favorite, even though I like all these guys involved. Just not a big six-man championship guy. But we do have the Don Callis family composed on this evening of Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher, and Mark Davis versus Jet Speed, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey, along with Mystico. So
here's my problem with this before we even get into predictions. There's a Don Callis family, but you have tag team plus other dude. I don't like that. These trios should be trios. They should be groups, I just don't like Jet Speed and Mystico versus the Don Callis family. Come on.
Man, unless you're the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, isn't that what all six men end up being? Which is why I tend to not like them. You don't have three-man teams historically. Well, you have tag teams.
But you had the Ops. You had, of course, you have the Elite. I mean, there are you have the Death Riders. There are plenty of factions within AEW because Tony, just like me, loves factions. So this just seems like lazy book. This is just lazy. That's just all this is. And there's my old man rant.
I just don't like the idea of the Trios Championship. Let's pour all that into your tag team division and just strip the third unnecessary guy away. But being what it is, I'm going to say Don Callis family just because.
Because they're a real trios group. Or can be a real trios group.
They are a faction, and the other guys are extremely talented, but they tend to have flashy matches and then put other guys over. So I'm figuring that's what happens here as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike Bailey. I loved you in TNA, but you have been pretty much the put other guys over, have some really cool spots, and put other. I'd like to see it change, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to on this
This
night.
is yeah, this isn't the match for that to change.
No. No, but let's get into some more consequential matches because now we have one that I think is a show stealer based on their past contest. It is a no time limit match for the AEW Continental Championship. John Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita. The two of them had one of the more memorable matches in AEW last year when they went to a draw in the Continental Classic. Hence the no time limit match for this one. That match was so good. I don't know how they match it or top it, but I don't put it past them that they could here. I think this is a show stealer in waiting, Doug. I don't know about
Yep.
what you think because I loved Keshta quite a bit, but I think Moxley's
Yes.
back on his run again after finding himself during the Continental Classic. Are we in lockstep
Yes.
again?
Once again, my second screen just went to sleep again. But yeah, so we are in lockstep with this too, because Takeshita has been climbing up ranks, and but Mox has got his groove back, right? So
he does.
Mox is the man and comes out on top here.
Isn't it funny how sometimes giving someone a losing streak after having them feel so invincible for so long actually does more good for them than it does harm?
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is why I think, and not to mix my companies and my metaphors here, but I know earlier we talked about it is Mania season. It is what they're doing with Cody Rhodes. While they took the title off of him for Drew, the switch at the end, like I think that, people were tired of seeing him completely on top, and it adds a little more, doubt to the situation. But I do think that, if anyone was tired of John Moxley, his losing streak and then eventual overcoming in the Continental Classic, yeah, he's got that mojo back. You're right.
Yeah,
no doubt about it.
He does. He does, and he'll, Takeshi will be also staring at the lights next weekend on the Ides of March even. So there's that.
Which brings us to our Women's World Championship match. We're going to talk about a 2 out of 3 falls contest here. Obviously, it's not ending in 2 falls because, again, wrestling math, you have to go all 3. Right. One fall to decide it all when you have Tekla, your champion, defending against the former champion, Chris Statlander. The backstory of this one is they're 1-1. So one match is not enough to decide who's the better. So we're going to go break the tie by doing 2 out of 3 falls, which I actually think is kind of cool that they're doing it that way. It is like having a couple of extra matches, thrown on here.
Well, that's true.
I hope that they at least make it feel like a lengthier than normal match, because if there's one thing in practice, I like in theory, rather, I like the 2 out of 3 falls concept. In practice, I hate when the first fall happens in like 2 minutes in a way that would never happen in a regular match just so they can get through 3 falls. I hate when wrestling does that to us. So I'm hoping they give them a good 25, 30 minutes total here.
Yes. Yes.
Doug, I'm going to let you pick this one first, and we'll see if I'm in lockstep with you.
All right. Okay. So I haven't got to watch a lot of wrestling because, my work life and my health life have kind of zigged and zagged over the past couple of weeks, but I've caught more wrestling and internet clips to get caught up on, right? And I got to say, I love Tekla's most recent promo where she's talking trash and does not the flip backwards, but she locks herself in and is upside down. So just on that promo alone, I've got to go with she's got to keep this belt a little while longer.
It's funny that you brought up that particular promo because I watched this morning the rest of Collision, or maybe it was last night. I was watching it on delay, and my wife happened to come into the room and ask me, "Is that lady drunk? What is wrong with her?" I'm like, "No, honey, she's not drunk. She's just Austrian." And toxic.
She's toxic. She's not drunk. She's toxic.
I find it interesting that. Go ahead.
I was gonna say at points it's like she forgot her bullet points to her promo.
It
She's like,
was all over the place, but I did like the big bit over the rope thing. And she looked like
just
psychotic, so it kind of helped the ramshackle promo to get over in my mind.
it really did. It was almost like some old school Piper, just kind of all over the place kind of promo where it's like,
Yeah, like this person's
going
truly
on?
unhinged. Like they're making no sense. It's like Scott Steiner, who we referenced earlier. Like,
right?
I don't know what he's talking about, or Ultimate Warrior, but man, watch out for that guy or gal.
Yeah,
Tekla is
exactly.
definitely. It's funny that she's the third member of of her faction, but instantly became the mouthpiece more than
Right.
yeah. It's like she is ascended to be the superstar of the trio. I don't know. I'm going to, just for the sake of having a disagreement on here, I have been torn on this one anyway. I'm going to say that Chris Statlander outlasts her on this one.
That's I miss the alien Chris Statlander. Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. I want to see her boop people again. Can we get at least one boop in this match?
Well, it is 3 falls, so maybe one will be decided by a boop.
That would be awesome. The boop would be an awesome finishing move now that you said this.
I do think that Tekla has a very good shot at retaining here because I think they realize they have something with her. I just for the sake of disagreement and where this one is so close to me, I'm going to go Statlander.
Cool.
So that we have at least one disagreement.
Yes. A little bit of variation. I don't know. We may disagree on the main event, or what I'm presuming is going to be the main event.
Well, let's talk about the match that I don't think will be the main event, the last one other than that, and that is for the World Tag Team Championships. Your champions, FTR, versus the Young Bucks back in the title picture. I like what they've been doing with this feud with FTR, Stokely in the wheelchair. Like all of it has just been wrestling 101, and I'm there for it.
Yes.
I'm going though FTR. I feel like, particularly with their offer to Tommaso Ciampa, who seemed to show some of that black heart heel tendency. Yes. I think they're going to win him over. I think he somehow gets involved. I think the Young Bucks get screwed, and that Cash and Dax walk away still your champions.
Yeah, I think Psycho Killer is forming alliances. I'm glad to see Psycho Killer, straight up Psycho Killer. And yeah, you're probably right. I want to see the Bucks just be the Bucks now because they're way beyond young, but maybe that's part of the joke at this point with them.
Yeah, the middle-aged Bucks doesn't have a ring to it, really.
No, but Bucks, sure, but young Bucks,
yeah.
We're past that, guys. Still love them. Don't get me wrong. And this and they do have some amazing chemistry with FTR. But I think it takes some outside interference via
and the stage was set for that outside interference too, which kind of tips the hat, I think, on this one.
Unless we get a Briscoe Psycho Killer on here, when we may get that before the week is over.
Oh, that is true.
Because Tony's going to add like 6 more matches.
Doesn't mean they both don't end up involved in this one.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Because Bucks and Briscoes have history, so we can see a lot. And Briscoe and FTR have history.
A lot of history, and that takes us to a main event that has a lot of history because these guys are no strangers to one another. And that is your World Championship match with MJF defending against one-time champ Hangman Adam Page in a last chance Texas death match. Give him Texas death.
When is it that Page became the new John Moxley? When did that happen?
Explain.
with the death matches and the
Oh,
hardcore nonsense and
well, I guess for a cowboy, maybe the whole Texas death going to, brand you and tie you up with a bull rope and hit you with a cowbell and,
yeah.
maybe that part of it. And of course, MJF being the pampered coward who would not want this, which all of that was well done. My issue
Right.
with this one, and it's so typically what you see when it comes to these kind of stipulations. The stipulation before we predict a winner in this one is that if Page doesn't win, he will never be able to challenge for the AEW World Championship again. The typical stipulation here is always as long as MJF is champion, which means MJF can win and then go on to another program. And then down the line, Hangman Page gets back into the title picture with someone else. The fact that that's if Page loses, he will never be able to challenge again complicates this one for me, predicting it, because there's no way in the world that probably, arguably, however you want to slice it, at least top 3 talent that kind of homegrown. I know that he was in Ring of Honor and things, but he didn't come from somewhere else already a star. Right. I feel like Hangman is a homegrown talent, just like MJF can be a homegrown talent. There's no way in the world Adam Page is not challenging for a world title in his career again.
That's what I was going to say, because here's the deal with this. I think the last time Tony let somebody run this kind of an angle with themselves, like if I lose this, I will never challenge again, that was Cody. And we see how that worked out for Cody and for Tony. So I don't think Tony Khan is going to let that happen again, especially with one of essentially the founding fathers of AEW, just like Cody. Yeah, Hangman, I'm calling this one. This goes to Hangman. MJF is walking out the loser in this one, and Hangman gets the gold, which, we've seen it before, but I think, again, we talked about it, Swerve is on a collision course for that championship, and does this renew that rivalry then?
I mean, I know it's a road they've gone down a lot, but it's never been a bad road when those two are in the ring. So
yes,
I think it's one of those Flair Steamboat situations that whenever you want to break the glass and bring them out, like, okay, we can heat this back up again in a hurry and no one's going to be mad about it. Well, where would that leave MJF? Would he still stay in the world title picture, or is he moving on to another program, or is he moving on to Hollywood for a little bit and taking one of his hiatuses like he did before he came back and won the championship?
Probably the latter of those things, and then he comes back. I mean, MJF is kind of like the Stone Cold of AEW at this point. He doesn't need a championship. It's good that he has one, but he doesn't need it. He can still come back and work his way into a main event, even if that's not for the title and the top prize. He can weave back and forth. He can take some time off. He has a perfect out right here where Hangman beats him so bad in a Texas death match that he's off TV for a while, healing from his wounds. It works out.
That's true.
It works out to send him back to Hollywood to do something.
So I honestly would have. I think I would have predicted your winner as MJF had they not added the stipulation about never being able to challenge again. Only because MJF, if you look at the calendar, really hasn't had the title all that long, having taken it back from Samoa Joe. But because of the stipulation of never being able to again, it does seem to indicate that Page has to win this one, and it is his signature. I mean, it is one of his signature matches. I don't know that he could lose a Texas death match unless it's total shenanigans and it's MJF finds a way to cheat to win, and Hangman's the one that goes off and does Hollywood, or his contract's about to be up. We don't know it, and he's on his way to WWE, or to follow Cody or something. Who knows? But I think we're in lockstep here that you're going to see a new world championship. So if you want to see a title change, then order Revolution now next Sunday night. This is the pay-per-view.
These aren't predictions; these are spoilers at this point. Are you going to go on Heyman on this?
I'm feeling cocky because the last time around we did this, I had to do it by myself. You weren't with us, and I got almost all the matches right on Elimination Chamber.
I got
Darby,
all my
Randy
predictions
Orton,
right.
That's true. You did. You got them all right from before. Oh, and with that, let's toss it to the big finish. Doug, let's start with our botch of the last wrestling week. What you got,
brother? Like I said earlier, I'm going to let you run with these this week because I have not consumed enough wrestling to make good predictions, or not good predictions, but even comment enough. I feel like a new Mark who just got introduced to wrestling and doesn't know what he's talking about. So I can't even speak on this past week other than internet clips. So
I will. I believe that if you follow me, you're going to at least agree with my botch.
All right.
And I can say that with some confidence because I feel like we've talked about this on the show before. So my botch of the week, I'm going to call it CM Punk's exchange with Roman Reigns on Monday Night Raw. My pencil was in the air, ready to write this down as my the main event promo segment. This was going to be my performance of the week. It was going so well. And then CM Punk closes the whole exchange by threatening to bury Roman next to his father, Hall of Famer Sika from the Wild Samoans. Doug, you and I have talked. This is why I feel like you were going to be in agreement of this.
I did see the clips of this,
numerous times that real life dead relatives do not make for storyline fodder in wrestling storylines. It is not appropriate at all. And even if it was okay, isn't Punk supposed to be the face in this?
Oh, that's what I was going to say. How is this the baby face then? And I know there's argument that heels and baby faces don't exist in WWE, but clear they absolutely do, because wrestling at its core is good guy versus bad guy. And are we pivoting Punk to a straight up heel? I don't know, but I did see this.
If you want to, it's still a pretty despicable look for a baby face. There's nothing tweener about I'm going to kill you and bury you next to your recently deceased father. That's just it's just a douchebag.
Unless Roman counter promos about Larry,
I mean, and I wouldn't have been fine with that either. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Because really, these two have such good chemistry. That's like I said, I was about to say, performance of the week. They have such good chemistry on the mic. I really do feel like they've done a lot in just 2 promo segments, a very brief amount of time to sell this match for Mania. So I have no doubt that they will recover from this. But it just was unnecessary based on how good everything up to that point had been, and just bad taste. And again, bad writing because it's out of character, or should be considered out of character.
Should be
for the CM Punk character. Yeah, maybe not the CM Punk, the real guy, but that's another story. We have a whole archive that you could go visit for that. But performance of the week, Doug. I'm going to, if I give them a botch for when they don't do well, I'm going to give them a kudos when they do. And that is the WWE writing team for the Dominic Mysterio Penta contest. It is not my match of the week, even though it was very good. That's why I'm not calling it for Dominic and Penta. I'm calling it for the writing team because of just how much they were able to accomplish in just a single match, which goes to show when you're clicking on all cylinders what a good creative team can do. Because first you get Penta getting his first WWE championship after a great match, which gives him a clear path to WrestleMania that he didn't necessarily have before, because a champion's going to defend at WrestleMania. Get a very popular new character on the card. That's great. Dom was going to be on there no matter what. Doesn't need the title. By the fact that Finn refused to help Dom cheat because Dom didn't want any help until Dom did, that furthers that storyline, writes the collision match that's going to happen at WrestleMania that we all want to see between these two and the Judgment Day break off. And then third, they've managed to get some rehab on the Danhausen character after the clunker of a debut at Elimination Chamber that we all found underwhelming, because Danhausen, in a comical bit beforehand when he was dismissed by the Judgment Day, put a curse on Dom, who immediately comes out And so you accomplish all three of those things in one match. That, you know, the curse calls Dom to lose. The Finn not helping him cheat has that going, and then Penta gets to break off and do his own thing now at Mania as a champion. Just a whole lot accomplished here in a single match, and I applaud all the effort that went into that. I thought it was well.
That is a lot squeezing in there, but it all sounds like it worked well. So,
and then that leads us to the match of the week, Doug, and I'm going to give it for somewhat similar reasons, but because obviously the stakes were very higher in this one. Again, some WrestleMania course corrections, but Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. For the second time in 3 months, we saw a major world title switch happen on free TV, which always is a good thing when they don't always save those things for the big pay-per-views. Gives you the idea that anything can happen. The match was very, very good on its own. But much like the Dom Penta match, it also accomplished things beyond just the action in the ring, right? It clarified Mania. And honestly, thank God it is a singles match rather than a multi-person match, which, you know, I prefer, especially on your biggest show of the year, a one-on-one. And it didn't matter to me if it was Drew or Cody. Honestly, I just wanted a singles contest more than I wanted a four-man or a three-man.
Yeah.
It is the fresher match to have Cody versus Orton. It also allowed both faces to dig into their legacy backgrounds. They have a ton of history over the decades that they can play off of. And it'll also be interesting to see how this particular story develops as to do they both stay faces? Do they both stay friends? I have a feeling, based on just the early returns on Friday and some of the comments that Randy Orton was making to Sami Zayn, that they were teasing that Orton might be the guy who will do anything. But as you and I spoke last week, there seems to be some opportunistic Cody Rhodes coming out. And based on crowd reactions to him, this could be an interesting ride. And we knew that Drew was going anyway to film Highlander, so it wouldn't be likely that he'd keep the title. So that adds a little more intrigue. And it seems like Drew's on a collision course with Fatu, which I think is also fantastic.
Yes,
I would rather see those two one-on-one than them shoehorned into a four-person. So I think everybody wins in this, and Cody and Drew got to have a great match, and the fans got to see another title change on free television.
It all works. It all works.
I do think that if I was just going, technical wrestling, there was some AEW matches this week. The main event last night at Collision was very, very good. For example, the MJF contest on Wednesday had opened up Dynamite. Very, very good. So I think the AEW probably had the technical side of things down. But if you're just looking at the overall picture of importance of match results and in-ring action, Cody versus Drew is kind of hard to beat this week. That is the talk of the wrestling world.
Yeah.
So go watch that match, Doug. I will tell everyone, including you. That's one to see.
All right. That I can go back and rewatch or watch, I guess, on replay. However that works.
He's going to watch it on replay.
Technology.
And with that is come to the end of another episode of the Two Bros Wrestling Show. As I hinted at earlier, we have AEW Revolution airing live next Sunday night. When they do the Sunday pay-per-views, that will be opposite our normal live time here on YouTube. So if you will, please join us 2 weeks from tonight when we talk about everything that happened at Revolution, what we thought of it, and see if it was a mistake for Doug and I to agree so much and we're just way, way wrong, or if we got it right. And we'll get here and talk about the quality of that match as well as what's happening in the world of wrestling. But until then, Doug, what should they do?
Some wrestling. Go watch some wrestling, people. Thanks for watching, everybody. Now go watch some wrestling.
See you next week.
Good night.
Oh, 2 weeks. 1 minute. I just said
2 weeks.
See you.
2 weeks. Go watch some wrestling. I'm going to. I promise.